everything. So this time is, I'm going to, Mr. Butler, do you want to take the lead on this, or does Mr. Danford?
I think Mr. Danford needs to take it.
Okay. Joe, if you would, come up and,
Y'all want handouts?
anybody else, if you want to come up closer, you're more than welcome. Yeah, yeah, I don't want to share around, just come on.
Okay, let me start by giving you a little bit of history on 5 Points landfill. It started receiving waste in 1987. It has been a more or less a going concern with a negative income since that time. I do want you all to ask questions. Okay, what I've done is I had 9 pages to start with, and I said that's way too much. I condensed everything down. I threw a bunch of stuff out that I figured you probably wouldn't be interested in, and I'm going to try to make it as slick as I can so that you ain't got a whole lot of choices. So I'm giving you 2 for the future. Now, 5 Points landfill has never made a profit. There's always been in the red. That means the taxpayer has foot the bill all along. If you look at your spreadsheet, this one here, and the numbers on it, let's look at the present, see what we have. We have direct labor. That's what it takes for people directly running the landfill. Other fixed costs. I want you to pay special attention to that. That's $96,000 this year. Next year it's going to go up to $120,000.
Explain that if you would.
Okay, I will. I plan on it.
Okay.
That is the amount of money that we have to put into escrow every year for the closing of 5 Points landfill. In about 5 years, we're going to have about $2.2 million in there. Yes, sir.
You made a comment. 5 Points never made a profit. Has any of our landfills ever made a profit? Our neighboring landfill or anything, or
Waste management? Waste management runs theirs so that they make a profit. They pay, during their life, they pay for their closure and long-term care costs with their revenue. And they also support the business, and they make a profit off of that. First off, you had a very small landfill to begin with. You didn't have enough space to spread it out. You didn't charge enough in the beginning. Not you, but in the beginning. There was never enough charged to bring in a profit. There wasn't enough debris brought in to make a profit. You have to have a certain amount of debris in order to generate the tipping fees that you need to get by. Okay, that $96,000, that's a closure cost. Somewhere around 2018, and we'll just use 2018 as a year, you're going to close 5 Points landfill, or you're going to opt to expand it. If you close it, 2/3 of that money is going to go to just buy dirt. 28,500 cubic yards of dirt. And it's not just any dirt. It has to be dirt certified by a lab to meet the requirements of DEP. We don't grow that kind of dirt here. Maybe they do up around Jackson County, Alabama border, somewhere in there. It's a very heavy clay. Not the heaviest, but a very heavy clay. So we're going to spend that much money. You're already committed. You've got no way out of it. That's what you're going to do. That does not include the long-term care costs, but because we are a county, we don't have to escrow those. We can pay for those year after year after year. For 30 years after 5 Points closes, you will pay to monitor it. Okay? You will pay to take care of the maintenance on it for 30 years.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
How many landfills landfills I know we have the Buckhorn. Is there any more in the county, the one out on 382 at one time? How many are you monitoring now?
We are monitoring 3, including 5 Points.
Including, so a total of 3 including. Okay, go ahead, I just,
Okay. And that is Buckhorn and St. Joe Dump.
and Joe Dump, which is on 382.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Buckhorn we should have had to stop monitoring it this past year, but that didn't happen because they found some stuff in the water. They expanded, they put some new wells in. That's a different story.
okay, all right.
I don't want to get into that.
3, we're monitoring 3.
Yes.
Okay.
What about weed capital? Where are we at on weed capital land side? We're not monitoring or anything, or what's going on?
No,
with
sir.
that?
We are not monitoring it. We use it as a laydown yard for vegetative debris. I have it as a site. If we have storm debris, we put it there. That is a last resort because the groundwater there is so close to the top that typically it takes a very long time for water to drain off of it. And that was the reason we lost Weetapo, was we couldn't meet stormwater standards. Let's see. What you see there down at the cost per ton overall is $155 per ton. Obviously, we can't charge that. So we're going to take a loss. That's at the current tipping fee of $35 a ton. Follow it on down. You see the cost in excess of revenues in red, $452,000. That's what the taxpayer foots the bill for 5 Points landfill. Now, if you didn't have a landfill, if you didn't have a way to get rid of your trash, you couldn't issue building permits. And David's told you all about this stuff. You got to have a way to do it. Florida statutes mandate that you handle your solid waste. Okay. So we got to have some method of getting rid of it. We're a small county. We don't generate that much, so we don't bring a lot into the landfill.
We're dipping into the taxpayers $450.5 million.
Yes, sir. And I have thoughts on that too, but
Okay.
I brought that up in budget meetings, and
I have thought on that also. You know, these people make it off the taxes, we don't need to go without. To the curb.
Hey, come on, Mr. Chairman.
yeah. Okay.
I yield over.
Okay. Hi, Tan.
Let's continue.
Okay, we're on this page. All right, we're about to look at the year 2018 landfill expansion. Now, if you flip over to the front page, you see that I have in there the expansion outlined in green. Okay, that would be what we would expand at the landfill. That's approximately 12 acres. Because we got to cut some of it back because of the slope and everything. So we would have about 12 acres for area to dispose in. Yes, sir.
And we have the property for that, Joe?
That's our property. That's our property. That was prior used under prior permits at 5 Points landfill. The expansion may or may not go through with DEP. One of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to close a ditch there, but the ditch doesn't hold any water. It's never held any water, so I don't think that will be a problem. But it's still something we need to look at. We are working on a present permit that I started working on in 2006. It took 3 years to get this permit through. They finally gave us a permit in 2009. We just kept getting extensions after extensions. It took 3 years just to make a dome out of 5 Points. Now this is going to make an even bigger dome out of 5 Points. And that's essentially what it's going to look like, is one big dome. I estimate that the expansion will last 10 years. Now, all of this is a guess because I haven't seen the design plans. We haven't made any design plans. We don't know for sure if DEP is going to allow it. They probably will, but we may go through a lot of stuff and they deny it. Please look at your cost expenditures for that. Now, for those 5 years, I estimated a 2% cost of living increase every year. It amounts to just a bit over 10% for 5 years. That's a very conservative number, considering our current inflation rate is above 8%. But we'll go with that 2%. Had to have a number to work on. Okay. Your direct labor would go up by that about 10% number. Other fixed costs. Remember, that's your closure amount. What it's going to cost you to close the expanded 5 Points landfill. That is $320,381 for 10 years.
That's per year or for the 10 years?
Every year for 10 years. That's $3.2 million on top of the $2.2 million that you already had. So now we're talking about $5.4, $5.5 million to close 5 Points landfill. 2/3 of that is going to be dirt. And we can't haul that much dirt. So we're going to have to buy all this dirt. Okay? And this is based on engineers' estimates on how much it's going to take. When it comes down to it, it could take more, it could take less. They won't know until they actually get into closure. But whatever it is what you will pay. If you got $5 million saved up and it's going to take $7 million to close it, you will pay the $7 million. Where the rest of it will come up, that'll be up to the board at that time. That's what we're facing both in 2018 and 2028.
Well, the 2028 is with the expansion, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 2018.
Now, I also increased the tipping fee. You can see that down there in orange to $46.50. And I kept it the same thing for both that and the transfer station, just because we had to have an equal number to work by in the future. The cost in excess of revenues is $664,000. That's what the taxpayer will pay to cover
Expansion.
well, to cover every year, to cover 5 Points landfill.
Okay.
At the end of 10 years, $6.6 million out of the taxpayers' money that they put in will go to run 5 Points.
Question, Joe. I'm just throwing this out here. I mean, we've discussed this a little bit before. Have you considered, with the numbers here, looking at the 80 acres that we own up at Wetapo into maybe just getting a complete new landfill started, or
Yes,
you know
sir.
what? I'm just throwing it out. I don't know what I'm talking about,
I
but
understand.
I'm throwing it out there.
Yes, sir. I looked at it, and there have been some wells sunk right next door. The groundwater, we face the same groundwater problem there that we faced at Wetapo. The groundwater is so close to the top that we don't have the ability to put in a stormwater system there. Once we dig down, the groundwater fills it up. You don't have any capacity for stormwater.
Okay, could that be built up some, maybe?
It's 80 acres.
But I think one thing that kind of throws me off on this, Joe, we have a dumping station, I guess you would say, that they haul all kind of material in joining this piece of property. They meet all DEP requirements. They can dump raw sewage, I'm gonna say that, next to this property, but we cannot do a landfill. Something wrong.
Different rules,
Different rules.
different rules.
I don't know. That's
Yes,
what I'm asking.
It's different rules for us than it is for them. They dump biosolids, which have been partially digested. And every one of those loads is tested before it comes out. Does it stink? Sure, it stinks. But it's also the most cost-efficient way of handling it for them. We're under a different set of rules. Our rules and their rules look nothing alike, except for some monitoring requirements.
Okay. I'm asking you, and I know you probably look at this, but look at your numbers. You know, you say 80 acres. We don't have to do the whole 80 acres at a time. We have 80 acres there to work with. If we need 20 acres to begin this new process with, even if we, you know, say we contracted the landfill out, some of these new companies, they may want to go in there and work with that 80 acres and build it up to a landfill. I don't know.
They won't. First off, you don't have enough garbage in the county to justify putting in another landfill. You put it in, if it's 20 acres, you're still going to have to pay the closure cost. You're still going to have to cover the long-term care costs. You don't have enough money coming in to pay towards that as tipping fees. You can't support a landfill.
I think what I'm looking at is maybe the long term here. We go through everything that you've outlaid here for us so far. We're looking at 10 years maybe. We're going to be right back to the drawing board again. So, you know, it's just, we have 80 acres. That's the bad thing. We have 80 acres. We do something.
You have 80 acres that is not suitable for a landfill.
Well, what we need to do is swap it for landfill material then or something.
Unfortunately, there was at one time 90 acres over there behind, off Cape Glass. You know, when Cape Glass goes in and makes that dog leg to the left, straight ahead was 90 acres. Now you have people build nice fancy houses around there, and you're going to tell them that you're going to put a landfill in behind their house. That was the only suitable site that we had of any size.
And what I understood about this project 4 or 5 years ago, you know, there were only 2 sites when we researched all this land in Gulf County. There were only 2 sites that were suitable for landfill. One being at Gate Glass, just like you discussed, and the other one being out at Weetapo.
You're talking about the 80 acres.
Yes.
The only one that we could say with any kind of surety was a Cape Glass. The other 80, we weren't going to get that. There was no way St. Joe Corporation was going to give us that. That was a beautiful site, not only for a landfill, but for getting some decent red clay.
Did we have any? Didn't we have the engineers to go out throughout the county, Joe, and look at those 2 sites? I mean, look throughout the whole county as far as that goes. Don't we have some engineering research on that 80 acres?
We did a lot of examination of the soils maps, and those 2 sites were the only 2 of any size that we could get away, first off, that we could get away from wetlands and then have a decent site left afterwards. St. Joe Corporation had said they would give us 100 acres for the DRI. That 20 acres I wanted across from 5 Points on that ridge that sits over there. The other 80 acres, I really wanted over there behind Cape Glass, but the first time I brought that up, I saw people's face because they had houses over there. They had nice houses over there. People didn't want a nice house and then have a landfill behind it.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember.
The other 80 acres was, and I told you at that time, that was a marginal area, but at least we could get some dirt out of it. And we got our own 80 acres. Now, in order to build it up, just 20 acres, you're talking about maybe building it up 6 feet of soil, so that you can have some kind of stormwater area. I can't see us doing it. That's astronomical amount. That would be several $1 million worth of dirt. You dig down up there 18 inches and you start hitting water. We can't put in a stormwater system. And that's the reason that we got kicked out of the capital, because we couldn't manage the stormwater system.
Okay, we only have 10 acres here, is what you showed me. Is it possible, I know I'm listening to you and cost affected, this, that, and other, but is this a project that we could be working on small amounts at a time?
Which project? The 80 acres?
The 80 acres. I mean, this 10 years is all we have here. We don't have any more property.
That's,
We have
I
to do
understand
something.
that.
Joe, can just throw this back in, because we talked about it on the budget side a lot. Really, we're not, I don't think perfect, like $10 or $12 million cost to start up a new landfill. So really, all we're really talking about now is extending the life of the current one, and then eventually go to a transfer station system. Because if you're not going to do a major landfill, a major cost, 10, 12, 15, $18 million, we're not going to be in the landfill business in 10 years. We're going to be in the transfer business, and we're going to look for
Okay.
out of county. I mean, it's.
That's about it. Okay.
Mr. Joe,
Yes.
we ever thought about an incinerator?
You're talking $50-60 million, and you don't have enough to make it pay for itself either. You don't have enough debris.
With the surrounding counties?
You already have one in Panama City, and they have their own problems over there. If you've watched, half the time they have fires over there that are not on the inside or they're on the outside, and they got the place closed, and you have to go and dump at Steelfield. We can't support an incinerator. It'd be nice. And I'm going to get into new technology in a few minutes, but I'm not there yet.
Joe, let me ask you a question, please. Let's go back out to 5 points.
Yeah.
Looks like to me, we're going to fix the transmission, drive this car some more, we're going to buy a new one. And let's go back to the present. Let's go back to the present. Now, you stated 2018. Is there any modifications we could do to the present landfill to try to get it more life out of it before we go into this expansion?
There's no more modifications. That modification was started in 2006 and became fact on the permit in 2009. It's going to be a dome-shaped landfill.
And so that's already inclusive. So we're
up as high as we can go.
What now?
We're up as high. We're going to go up as high as we can go.
As high as we can go. Okay.
Okay. And remember, the higher you go, the more problems you have. Okay. Slope slippage, erosion. It gets more expensive the higher up you go. But we're going moderately high. Okay, any more questions on the 2018 expansion?
Joe, just a comment. On going as high as you can go, that's all relative to the slope. You start at the base, 10 acres, 20 acres, whatever it is, and you can't go straight up with walls. You got to have a slope. You can't have too much slope. But at some point in time, that pyramid gets to the top, and that's the end of it. That's all you can do with it. And I think that's what you said on it.
Yes, sir. It's a 3-to-1 slope. For every 3 feet you go this way, you got to go up 1. So you can't exceed that slope. That's in the rules. I had originally tried to do this back in 2001. Yeah, around 2001. And there was a gentleman over the solid waste section in Pensacola that shot me down and said that we had to have a 7-to-1 slope. That means that even more gradual slope. And I said, no, that's not going to work. But I didn't think the rules applied to us. I think what he was commenting on were the rules that applied to a Class 1 landfill. 5 Points is a Class 3 landfill. They got a new administrator in there. I pitched it to him in 2005, and he said, sounds good to me. He said, I've read the rules, and I think you're right, go with it. So in 2006, that's when we started. Okay. Any questions from y'all? Hey, Jeff. No? Okay.
Joe, let me ask another question here. In our county, very optimistic that we will start, I want to see some population growth in this county. We need it. And that will play a factor too. You're basing numbers off of our present population.
Present population anticipated growth, which
Okay,
is very
all
low.
right. See, another issue here, and it seems like and probably, I can find out, probably only, 30, maybe 32% at the most of this falls on the taxpayers, the landowners. And there's only about, 30 or a little better percent in this county that pays
That actually
property
pays
taxes, and that's the ones we always go hit. The other 60 or whatever percent it is, and maybe 7, that they're getting somewhat a little free ride off of this. So that's the things I'm looking at. How can we continue on, not burden it, not keep stacking it on the shoulders of the taxpayers? Still come out ahead. I know if we had high volumes, I think you told me that Jackson County had such a, a 500,000 tons or something of that, and so therefore whoever does their garbage, they made a little profit. But what do we average a year out here? 8,000 tons?
For
this landfill.
For actually being deposited in the landfill?
Yes.
About 3,800 tons.
I know all the household garbage is it's leaving the county, but about
99% of it does. We get a little bit picked up by
Little
roadside
bit.
crews. And
all right. 99% of household leaves the county and through the people in the management, in waste management. I said waste management, but Waste Pro and anyway, these services, companies that service us. So the balance of, what are we talking about, 3,000, 4,000 tons?
Not quite 4,000, about
4,000
3,800.
tons, okay. But that's a long way from 500,000 tons that supposedly Jackson County collects. So this is 4,000 not feasible. No one's going to want to pick that up.
No, sir. You mean somebody take over the landfill?
Yeah.
No, we'd still have to pay it.
I know it.
You still have to pay for running the landfill. We just don't get enough to support the landfill. And honestly, if we got enough to make that $155 a ton, you'd be closing the landfill down a lot sooner.
Sure. That's the reason I came back to the 2018, if we have the population growth, which I surely hope we start seeing in the very near future. Okay.
Okay.
So Mr. Joe, everything that we put out on the table right now don't seem to be what we're looking for. Can you put us some recommendations out there on the floor that we can?
Next step over, 2018 transfer station. I think this is the direction we're going to go, but I want you all to make that decision. As I told you, I need a decision from y'all. I know you can't make one here, but I need a decision, and I need one before September. If I don't get a decision from y'all, I'm going to make one myself, because I have to make the direction to train the people and everything else that needs to be done, one way or the other. And I'm going to make my own decision if I can't get one from y'all. Okay, transfer station. Now, obviously, that means that we're going to haul a goodly part of our debris out of county. we already haul, I don't know, 300 tons out to Panama City now. We get rid of about 7 tons worth of electronics to Mariana. We recycle about 7 tons of electronics. We don't get any money for it. But,
Is that a year?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I don't know where all those computers come from, but they just keep coming in.
You said we recycle, but we don't receive nothing from that?
No, we don't. We send it up to the women's federal prison in Mariana, and they tear it apart and handle it themselves. And I'm going to get to that under recycling. If you look at the direct labor for a transfer station, we're going to drop 1 person off. However, the people that we have working there, at least one of them is going to work inmates. I don't want a bunch of inmates running around. 3 inmates at the most. And that's to handle some of the bull work that's going to be necessary in this transfer station. I don't have any detailed design plans for it. All I got is design up in my head and how it's going to work. But whichever way we go is what I'm going to talk to the engineers about, how to build it. If you look under other fixed costs, you see it's got 0. There is no closure cost for the transfer station. However, if you go 1 step down, you'll see the other variable costs, and in that $227,907 is $198,000 in tipping fees we're going to have to pay to get rid of stuff. That means that we're going to be hauling debris to Panama City. Your depreciation in equipment is going to go up a little bit. Mainly that's because I put in there a grinder shredder. A grinder shredder can handle just about anything you put into it. It can handle C&D, can't handle concrete obviously or rocks, but it can handle C&D, it can handle limbs, etc. Okay, so it's going to be a multi-purpose machine. Instead of just throwing stuff in a roll-off container, we would be shredding it up and spitting it into the container. We can carry more in a roll-off. And this depreciation also considers that we are going to go to a 40-yard roll-off or a 50-yard roll-off. We're going to a big carrying capacity. If we're going to have to carry debris to Panama, we want to carry the most that we can at every shot to cut down all the other costs. Let's see. Run on down. Obviously, fuel costs are going to increase. That's down to the last one before we hit the bottom line. Total expenditures. You see that our total expenditures are not much less, about $140,000 less than the expansion. Our cost per ton is $172 compared to the expansion of $205. However, because now we're having to handle our waste and we're handling it in a different manner, we can recycle a lot of stuff. And you see over here under recyclables what I have put in. With 3 inmates and a couple of guys running it, we could get $90,000 in recyclables, which would decrease our total cost. We're going to recycle this stuff instead of hauling it. So we're defraying the cost of disposing of something. We're actually collecting it and making money on it. The recycling market is not what it used to be many years ago. There are a lot of companies that are into it, a lot more buyers out there. It's easier to get rid of stuff. In fact, many things are in demand. Cardboard, for example. Cardboard is in big demand. and we can make money on it. People got to bring it to us. We may as well make money on it instead of shipping it to Panama. Now, the reason I don't do it now is because I only got 2 people out there working as spotters. They, one of them at all times has to be at the drop-off point. That means I only got 1 guy left to work. I don't have enough hands to do the work that needs to be done.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Now, the 90,000 into recycling, that fall back under the present, or will that just take effect with the transfer? I mean, right now, could you implement this?
Only partially, only partially. And because we get the small county grant. It's not much, it's $77,000. I pay for 1 person out of the grant. But I have been slowly moving towards buying recycling equipment last couple of years and planning on doing some of this. Probably one of the most well-received things that we're going to do is composting that 3,500 tons of green waste that we get out there. And not only will the composting help us with revenue, we can also use that compost for our own means, for around the courthouse, where we need some decent soil. We can sell it. We can, if we had to, we could use it as cover, although I'd prefer just to use chips for cover. But there's a lot of things we can do with that compost. I don't think we'll have any trouble getting rid of it. At $21 a ton, I think it will run right down the road. There are other things that we can do, but we can only do them on a small scale. Now, I obviously think that transfer station is the way to go in 5 years, but it's not going to magically happen. Just like the landfill expansion is not going to magically happen. It's going to take some money to get it started. The expansion is going to take money because you got to build all the walls all the way around, and that's a lot of dirt. On the same token, you got to build a building, and you know what an agricultural building is? It's kind of like a huge pole barn, except it's made out of metal. One of those, and you have a concrete floor and a tipping floor in there. That everything is tipped on. Any recyclables are pulled out. The rest of it is run through the Schreiner grader, yeah, and is tossed into the roll-off for transfer out. To me, this is the most sensible plan. But whatever y'all come up with, I'll work with. But is it ideal? Oh, hell no, it's not. It's still going to leave us with a deficit of $450,000 a year. It's still going to leave us with a deficit.
Would you, I know you said you haven't drawn out the transfer station, but would you envision it to be in such a situation that you would be processing all of the debris on a daily basis that is placed into the transfer station?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. As debris comes in, we would process it. We may stockpile it enough to warrant running the machine to grind it up, but we would be handling it predominantly on a daily basis. I went to Epcot, and there's a whole nother world underneath Epcot that you don't ever get to see, where they have their makeup and everything else and clown costumes or whatever they have there. They have all of this stuff below Epcot. They also do the recycling down through there. 3 guys handles all the recycling for Epcot. Obviously, they do it in a very efficient manner, but just these 3 guys can handle all the recycling for Epcot because they do it in the most efficient manner. It's something to see.
And you said that the landfill expansion would give us about 10 years.
About 10 years.
The transfer station, what would be the time frame on that? Is that ongoing? Do we have a...
Transfer station would be ongoing. Now, I view that in the future, that one transfer station may not be enough, that we will have to have one on the north end. I don't know how fast that's going to happen. That depends on growth. But we have to look at the cost there also. But at some point, one transfer station on the south end is not going to be enough to handle everything we have. We're never going to have another landfill. It is just way too expensive. But we can handle our waste as we're mandated to do in an efficient, responsible manner. Are we ever going to make a profit? Right now, where I stand, probably not in my lifetime. And that's, what, 3 or 4 more years at least. And we can make a difference, though, in how we plan for what we're doing. If you look at the map on the front, you see where that transfer station takes up. That's quite a bit of property we have out there for the transfer station. We have plenty of area to stockpile in items that before we sell it. And across the way, we have a 20-acre site where we're putting our green debris now. That's where we would handle our composting over there. And the things that we need for composting, I believe I can pay for all of it on a grant, including a 4-inch well for out there. Need a well to
Joe, let me
run
ask
water
you,
over the stuff that you're composting.
let's just say, go with the transfer. We have a guarantee what county or what facilities will be taking this. Going over to Bay County,
Yes,
they're set up, all right. If you go with the transfer, close out the present landfill, and we just bypass the expansion.
Mhm.
The transfer would offset the expansion, or would it eliminate the expansion
It
here?
would eliminate the expansion.
All right, now let's go back to this transfer, and you talk about putting a grinder in. Trying to say, okay, have we looked at talking to nurseries or some people that would be interested in any of this wood byproduct or any of this? Have we talked to anybody? We could sell it to nurseries or?
You can sell it to nurseries, because the one thing you're going to always make sure of is that you don't mix painted wood.
It has to be
preserved
segregated
wood.
then.
It has to be segregated in what kind of wood that you're going to make your compost out of. I don't see a problem. I have not called anybody up. Obviously, you're talking 5 years down the road.
But is it something worth looking into? Or wood products there?
We're going to do something with what we have out there.
Instead
Chances
of
are,
carrying it to Bay County and letting Bay County charge us, we charge $50 and they charge us $75. You know, you'll never dig out of that hole.
we don't send our wood over there.
Okay.
I use the chips for cover at the landfill. That way we don't have to haul any dirt.
What about your white products? What are we
We sell
going to
those
address that?
Whitfield Steel.
What?
We sell those to Whitfield Steel.
You sell the white product.
The white goods, yes, sir.
So, looking at all of this, sounds to me like, and I'm asking, would the county be better off to go ahead and plan as much as possible, whatever, for the transfer station, to leave out as much of this expansion as possible? Could we save money like that? Or could we even do it? You know what I'm saying? The expansion just kind of got off from that and move on
To not
into
do the expansion? Yes, sir. That's what I'm
and do the
offering.
expansion.
I'm offering the transfer station as an alternative to the expansion. To to my mind, the expansion is going to cost way too much. None of it's going to be cheap, but the expansion is going to be quite a bit of money that we're going to be putting into just buying dirt.
And that's only gonna last for 10 years, maybe, max.
Maybe 10
So
years.
seems
There's no way
to-
to know until we have design plans, and we would have to spend money to get design plans.
Seems to me like we need to move forward with the transfer. That's an ongoing, once we get there, that is an ongoing thing, so. I don't know.
Joe, one more thing, when they go to the transfer, how many free tons are we taking in that the county's picking up on roadside and whatnot now?
About 3,500.
3,500 tons. So that, in reality, is going to cost you, if you pay tipping fee on all of it, which you wouldn't pay tipping fee on all of it, but another $130,000, $40,000 to take that to Fayette County. So when you do this, it will necessitate you stopping free roadside pickup, because your cost will just be astronomical in addition to.
But with the transfer, then everything would come in, everything would go out. Reality, we wouldn't be stockpiling here.
No, we wouldn't save on anything.
And you could, I heard you mention that we could possibly go into the north end of the county, but it would be a transfer also, which what comes in
Eventually,
goes out.
Eventually, you're going
Yeah.
to have one on the north and the south end. Now, let's talk about future technology. On the space station, they have a technology called plasma, where they put their garbage in this machine. It uses a very high voltage to turn it into a brick. You essentially get a brick. Are we there yet for us people that wander around here on Earth? We're not really there yet on something that can handle it. But 10, 15 years down the road, you may be looking at a whole different technology on how to handle your waste. And I can't even imagine what the costs on it would be, but they are already looking into building plasma stations, building research plasma stations, just to find out if it will work or not. But there is future technology out there, and things will progress. We're not going to be stuck with a transfer station forever. 15 years down the road, we may come up with a new technology, and it may be in our best interest to go that way. Somebody else will be handling that. Now, let me get to that part. Y'all have planned for Mark Cothran to take over as solid waste director, as well as Public Works Director, as well as Mosquito Control Director. That's a mistake. You need to hire somebody to replace me to become Solid Waste Director. Let Mark do the Public Works and the Mosquito Control, because he's the best at it that this county's ever had. And find somebody to replace me on Solid Waste. That's a suggestion.
That was more of just a recommendation of Mark in that position. I don't think we just said that we would give that position to Mark. That was more of a recommendation.
There is no way that he could do all three positions.
Understand?
Okay.
So, just a comment. On the transfer station line, under other fixed costs, in 2018, there will not be a requirement for escrow at that point in time. But at the same time, we'll still have $2.something million sitting in the bank to close the landfill.
Yes, sir.
So even though it's not in this line to be every year to be put in the budget, we will have to pay marketing costs and to maintain the landfill, the erosion and.
Yes, that is a separate entity then from what we do with the transfer station. If we go to transfer station, say in 2018, then the costs associated with closure and long-term care of the landfill are not apropos to the transfer station. Each one of them has to stand or fall on its own.
It's still there, but that's funding to pay for it.
That's correct. That's correct. Sorry, I can't offer you any magic solution. but that's what there is.
That's why we're here, Joe, to discuss all of this and look at all our options and all, and you've done us a good job with this.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, if I can make a comment, somewhat relative to this. Back up about 28 years ago, big rule changes where we've had a paper mill in this town since 1939, and that's where everything went to the landfill, and they were the largest users of the landfill. Back then, we dug holes below the water table, literally below the water table, and that's 382 and others that we put material in. And then, about 28 years ago, we started the first 10 acres of this map you're looking at. I think the lowest elevation on the material in the landfill had to be 12 foot.
12, 13, yeah, somewhere.
So we were below sea level on some of those landfills, and now we had to be 12 foot or higher. So that's a lot of cubic yardage that we can't use like we used to. I mean, for a good reason too, and we shouldn't have been going as deep as we were. But that's why we never had a landfill above ground. Now we have one above ground, and it must be, and it will be. But big change from then to now. We spend that many years and everything goes below ground level. Can't go below ground level now. Pretty much got to start at ground level and go up. Well, in some cases, Joe's had to go in and fill in 5 points to elevate the ground level and start putting trash. So it's, any way you look at it, it costs a lot more than it did then. Before you dig a hole and put it in the hole, but not that way anymore.
Joe, things keep like a big cloud here. We were talking wood products primarily. What about your batteries? What about your tires? What about material in that category?
Batteries are recyclable.
Okay.
We can sell batteries.
Okay.
Tires, we collect tires out there. We have a tire holding site. Guy comes in, picks them up. We pay $110 a ton to get rid of them.
Well, we're paying to get rid of tires. Okay. The one's buying them for recycling purposes.
No, not enough people want swings, I guess.
There's been, as you said, some issues with the incinerator in Panama City, and it has been shut down periodically. If it was shut down, how would that affect the transfer station and us having to hold the debris until the incinerator reopened?
Very seldom do we haul to the incinerator. We do get a certain amount of household garbage out there, things that we pick out and have to throw away. Stuff that's picked up off the side of the road by ARC or by our work crews that we have to throw away. And we do take that to the incinerator. When it's closed down, we take it to Steelfield.
Can we, Joe, if you want to, for selfish reasons, for the budget deal, would you give them suggestions on?
It must be you.
Let's go ahead and raise the tipping fee and stop
Yes.
roadside
Okay.
pickup or make
Yeah.
arrangements to stop some of the bleeding.
Okay. You spend quite a bit of money picking up debris by the side of the road. And at one time, we had that stopped. And then we were going to go in and just do a little bit of it. Well, it's kind of like I had to go give blood today. Okay? And, you know, can you only stick the needle in a little bit? And it doesn't work. And eventually, you know, they got to stick the needle in all the way to get the blood out. We went all the way with picking up by the side of the road, all the green debris. Sometimes we're picking up stuff other than green debris, so we got to be real careful about what we're picking up. You need to stop that. I know it's a favorite of a lot of people, but we were almost to the point where people were weaned off of it, kind of like smoking. They were starting to forget that they needed a cigarette. Well, they were starting to forget that they needed to have their debris picked up. Tipping fees, yes, you need to raise tipping fees. They get $44.12 a ton over in Panama. I'm not saying that we should increase our tipping fees that much. If we had been doing it right along, we would probably be somewhere around that number now. But I suggest we increase it to $40 a ton.
Increase.
That would give us a start. That would give us a place to start. And then we increase it yearly thereafter. That's what they're doing over there. They're in the business to make a profit. They have the amount of debris they need to get in to make a profit. But they're also charging for that debris to come in. We've talked about MSBU's. Now, my vision of the landfill is that it costs money just to have a landfill. You don't necessarily drive anywhere near it, but you've got to pay to have that landfill. And to me, that's a cost that should be borne by all property owners, not just taxpayers, all property owners. And if you divide that up, it might only be $30, $40, $60, $80 per year for each property owner. I don't know. I'd let somebody else work with that. But as soon as you open the gates, that's when the users pay. So you got two separate cost streams. You got one cost stream of the property owners and taxpayers, and you got the second one that's paid for by the users. Are you going to break even? No, you probably won't, because you don't make that much money. But you need to separate those two, and you need to have two decent waste streams going towards what it costs to run 5 points. Recycling. Because we're a small county, we are required to offer recycling to our citizens. We are supposed to be recycling 4 things out of this list that they give us. So far we only got 1 or 2, sometimes 3. But we are supposed to be doing 4 things off this list, whether it's plastic, metal, different kinds of metal, blah, blah, blah. And I won't go into all that. However, when it comes to the recycling part for the transfer station, I am suggesting that, say somebody brings in wood debris, you cut the amount way down for what they're going to pay for a tipping fee, for bringing in limbs, etc. You cut it way down, because you're just going to process it for compost. And if they bring in enough, you give them a certain amount of compost back. And that's going to be worked out in the future. But you give them an incentive to bring us recyclables, things that we're going to make money off of. You give them a little bit, they give us some, and we can make some money off of it. I'm not saying that we should, somebody who brings in a refrigerator, we shouldn't charge them $40 a ton or whatever it's going to be. Give them a break, $15. $15 will handle our processing for getting the Freon out, and we can sell the Freon. You got to look at it as a business. That's what it is. It's not a going concern, but it is a concern. That's all I have.
And that part of it, I like that part where you were just speaking, because, we got employees right here who haven't, they just now got a raise, but you got employees and you got places that have employees that haven't had a raise, and God knows when, and here we are talking about raising all kind of tipping fees, but it costs, even though I know we got to have the money, got to get the money from somewhere. But when you dealing with a group of people who right now struggling just to take care of homes and households, you're going to reach inside their households and not just, you got your city reaching inside the households, taking money out. You got the county finna reach inside the household and take some more money out. After a while, you're going to get a bunch of people who really just don't care, because, no way you can make it on what they're making. So that what you just spoke on right there at the end about giving something back, I mean, that showed the people that we are really trying to work up something that will work for both of us. Not just reach out and just got our, you always about like a stepchild, always just got his hands out. Only time you really see them is when they want something. And right now, that's what we looking like. I mean, I know we got major problems. I know we got to come up with an answer. But not trying to be funny, Mr. Joe, that's what you get paid the big bucks for. So let's sit down to the table and let's come up with some more, let's see, can we work it out? And I see you've been working on it very hard, and I appreciate that.
And I think you did an excellent job with it.
Appreciate
To be honest with you, it takes a lot of time to sit down and work this long-range plan out like he has done, trying to do. If it was the perfect world, he wouldn't have a problem with this job.
Exactly.
But it's not a perfect world.
Yeah, you do a good job.
Let me ask, just throw something out.
Okay.
Question not asked, some kind can be the important question. On this limb, this debris pickup that we're doing throughout the county.
Yes, sir.
You're right, it used to haul dirt. We got out of the dirt business and turned it over to free enterprise, and I still occasionally get a call. I said, I'm sorry, we can't do it. We're ranging on in competition against people that make their living as a waste. But this is just take this the wrong way. If we had some outside entity that picked up the limbs and did this throughout the county, would it be cheaper for them to do it or for us to continue to do it? Because I know we're taking it in, it's free, we get nothing there. We have 2 trucks primarily that run 4 days a week, and that's drivers, diesel, wear, tear, maintenance. Looking at it that way, would it be cheaper cost that it's costing us now doing it ourselves or contract this out at a lower rate, if that's possible? Maybe all out in left field on this. I'm not.
No, and it's not an easy response. Most of the people that we used to get regular debris from, the companies that do yard maintenance, they no longer deliver it to us. They drop it by the side of the road. We have allowed that to go on. We have never prosecuted anybody for it. We have had county workers that have taken pictures of it happening, but those pictures have gone nowhere. So if you're not going to stop something, then you're going to allow it, even if it's passive allowance. They pick up quite a bit. If you go to somebody else to pick up green debris by the side of the road, and first off, who's going to be paying the freight? Is the county going to pay the freight, or is the homeowner going to pay the freight? To me, it's a homeowner's responsibility to cover the cost of debris that they want to get rid of. If the county's going to pay the freight, then they're still going to have to process that. They're going to have to do the same exact thing that we do. And I don't know.
That'll run the cost up.
I don't know if it will or not. I don't know what their cost is going to be. But I'm guessing that their cost, because they have to process it, they have to carry it back to wherever they originate and do the same thing with it that we do. It's probably going to cost more. Now, our green debris now, when our tub grinder is running, we use as cover for the landfill. We have to have a weekly cover. But if we chip it up ourselves, we got this stockpile of debris sitting there that we can use as cover, and DEP accepts that. If we don't have that, then we got to haul in dirt.
And we have this tub grinder, just for the people, we already have it, it's in operation.
No, it's not in operation.
Not?
No. even had the Caterpillar people come down and hook their computer up to it. Still don't have a definitive answer why it won't run. You can put a gas rag in the air system, and it will chug over and act like it wants to start. You can put ether to it. I hate putting ether to a diesel because it's hard on it. But it'll start up and wants to run. Something in the computer system is shutting the fuel system down. And even Caterpillar couldn't tell us. We're eventually going to have to ship it out. But we only got 2 mechanics. And we ain't getting, that's a whole other story. I don't want to even get into that. We're behind the 8 ball when it comes to mechanics. Our guys are stressed out.
With Albert Stevens here.
Just to follow up one more time on this, just from a budgetary side deal, Mr. McDaniel, as you know, because you're on the committee, just your lost tipping fee for what the county picks up and takes to the landfill for free is costing you $125,000 a year in tipping fees that you lose. Not to mention, you know, we retired a couple of them trucks, we cut $100,000 out of Joe's budget, but now we've got all these trailers running up down the road that got to be replaced from these individual work crews. So you're tying up, you know, thousands of man hours hauling yard debris. And I mean, we talked about putting it.
Well, it's becoming an entitlement, what it is.
But it's costing a pile of money, and $250,000 is not a low number for this figure. And we talked about when we go back out for garbage contracts, putting that as an alternative to add yard debris pickup to your garbage bill, especially if we go mandatory. Include that where it'll give the public an option, but it is costing a ton of money, even though you don't see it.
Yeah.
Lost revenue and actual cost is costing a pile of money.
I respond to that. I've sat here for 3 or 4 years now and heard you harp on that. Yard debris, you know, we have actually made progress in that. We no longer, there's a few things that get picked up, but appliances and all, we no longer pick those up. Supposedly, there's a little bit of it that goes on, but the yard debris, to me, leaves, limbs, you know, the people deserve some service, and you know, I'm not for cutting them out. I can tell you that. And that's me, gentlemen. I'm only one vote, but I'm here for the people.
On the talking about your private businesses who dumping the yard debris once they clean up on the side. Now, if we can catch someone doing something like that, I mean, we need to step down on that, because that's not right for them to take and charge someone to go and manicure their yard and dress it all up. And everything that they pull out, they put it on the side of the road for the county to come by to pick it up.
No, I'm of 2 minds on that. First one says, if I hire somebody to come in my yard and clean it up, and they put it out by the side of the road, I'm as entitled as everybody else to have my debris picked up, okay? It doesn't matter who they are. However, if they pick it up and they run off with it somewhere down the road, then they are the hauler. They are then responsible for getting rid of it in an appropriate manner. So if they run down the road and dump it on some property that's uninhabited just because they can, then that's wrong. To me, that's and that is a felony depending on how much it weighs. They take and they have a DEP permitted yard where they can take it, then that's perfectly acceptable. However, as long as it's my debris, doesn't leave my property, it's still my responsibility. And if it goes by the side of the yard, I should have somebody pick it up.
But in my case, I'm going to break it down a little further. You just take someone who mows somebody's grass, an individual who making a hustle on the side. Now, that's different from someone who owns a company that goes out and they got 10 yards a day that they cleaning up, and we catching them. I just heard you say something about we don't caught them with pictures. We don't take pictures of them, putting it on the side of the road, and the pictures just go away. What I'm saying is that I don't really want to give nobody a felony right now behind something like that, because you get a felony, then you got a reason you don't want to give them a job. You're the best person in the world, but you can't hire them just because they got a stupid felony. So I don't even want to go that direction. Can we get our attorney or get the administrator to that person who's in that picture, write them a letter, let them know if this be caught again, we gonna, if the felony come about because you don't want to follow the rules, you just got your felony. But, I don't want to just step down on someone out there trying to work and make a living cleaning a yard,
We're not really talking about that. We're not talking about the guy who just comes and cuts your
Okay,
grass.
that's what I want to make sure.
Okay.
That's basically, I just wanted to point that out because really from what I'm understanding, you're having your trouble out of your companies. Clean up someone's yard.
That pulls me into the next item, which is mandatory garbage pickup. We also have pictures of people throwing debris in other people's trash cans, in company trash cans. I live right next to the river. I see some of it floating down the river. You need to have mandatory garbage pickup. And I know that there are certain cases. The most likely is the elderly, people who have very little garbage. They may only have a couple of sacks a week at most. There are things that you can do to make sure the impact is not great on them. There are other communities that have looked at it. So I'm a big fan of plagiarizing what somebody else has already done. If somebody else has done it, then I don't have to think about doing it other than maybe modifying a little bit. So, but you need to look at mandatory garbage pickup because it's ending up in your parks. You're paying your people to pick it up. You're paying your solid waste department to haul it to Panama City when it's somebody, some homeowners or some residents' responsibility to handle it. It's not ours. It's theirs. And it becomes a community problem and also a health problem in some of the things that we've seen where the garbage was piled so high over garbage cans that you can't even see the garbage cans. You need to handle it. What you all decide to do is up to y'all.
It is a cost, and as Mr. Hammond said, we're picking up the yard debris. It is a cost to the county, and all of the money in the county comes from the taxpayers. What is the most efficient way to do it? And if that is mandatory garbage pickup for picking up the garbage and maybe adding some component of having yard debris picked up, it still costs the people in the county one way or the other. What is the most efficient way to do it? Mm-hmm. They're paying either directly or indirectly. It sounds like you're saying the mandatory pickup is a more efficient way to do it and therefore a less cost.
It's not just efficient. Why should my taxes go to pay for somebody else's garbage?
That's right.
It shouldn't.
Somebody in the county, like you and others, are paying for it. So
yeah. And somebody's
I think
getting a free ride.
we need to keep in mind that county money is taxpayers' money.
Yes, it is. And every dollar I spend, I act like it's coming out of my wallet.
Right.
My wife can tell you that I'm cheap.
But Joe, that is your choice right now. You want to pay Waste Management to pick your garbage up. That's your choice.
Yes.
You know, it's going to be extremely hard for me, and I'm only one on the board. But with the people in my district, I know my people. A lot of the people don't have the money to pay a garbage bill. A lot of these people, it may be in violation, blah, 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 but it's a means of survival, and they have to burn their garbage. So I'm open, to look at all the angles. Like an elderly lady or whatever, 70, 80 years old, and you mentioned this, she may have one little bag of garbage a week or a month or whatever. She brings it to my can. I don't have a problem with that. It's wrong, but it happens. it's gonna be extremely hard for me to support mandatory garbage.
I understand that, Carl.
Yes.
Let me throw something out to y'all. I burn all my limbs and everything, and I burn a lot of cardboard that I have, just so I don't have to throw it in my garbage. There are some things that you burn that are poisonous. There are certain plastics that you burn that let off dioxins. Everybody remembers hearing about Agent Orange, and it took the government decades to say that the veterans that were affected by Agent Orange had a legitimate gripe. By the time they did that, a lot of those complaints and requests for compensation had gone away because the people had died. Things that you burn in the trash can be dangerous. Anybody has any questions, have them call me, because dioxins are not necessarily something that gets you all of a sudden. It's a slow death. And some dioxins are innocuous. They won't bother you. Others hit you pretty hard. Burning your garbage is not the same thing as it used to be burning your garbage. There are things out there now that can kill you.
Still, I don't have no problem with the mandatory garbage pickup. I mean, in my district, we already on mandatory garbage. So my problem is when other people is taking the garbage, putting it in other people's garbage cans or throwing it on the side of the road. That's my problem there. I don't want to affect no older people for us paying it out, because a lot of them are having problems right now with everything going up so high. So, but we do have a problem with people taking their garbage, loading up other people's garbage cans with them. We do have a problem with people just taking them and throwing it on the side of the road. I don't understand that. I don't understand what would make a person want to take trash and just throw it down the side of a road. You know, I don't care if we do have inmates out there picking up the trash. For some reason, I can't grab a hold of that one. So with the mandatory garbage pickup, I mean, I really don't have a big issue against that. I see where that could really kind of help out. I mean, we can go with different size garbage cans for those who don't have much garbage, you know. I mean, several ways, I guess we can just look at it trying to make it work, but something gonna have to take effect. Because, you know, like I have said once, I could go to my business matter of fact, today, and I'll find at least 5, 6, 7 garbage bags in there. And if I go through the garbage bags, none of them come from within inside the city.
And to comment on that, Mr. Smiley, and here's where I do have a problem. I do have a problem with this. We have all these tourists, all these out-of-town people that come down here. Well, truthfully is, they bring their garbage with them. They bring them a beer can or a paper bag or whatever it is. I guarantee you that garbage bag don't go back with them whenever they leave here. They leave it somewhere. It's left somewhere. I guarantee you down here for us to pay for it. So that's my negative toward all this. You know, I don't like that. I don't know what, if mandatory garbage would fix that. But that is a problem. I've caught it. I've seen it personally, myself. These people from out of town dumping their garbage into our county cans. I've seen it. So that is a big problem.
I wonder once, if anyone can answer this question for me. When you rent a place, like on the beach, come down on vacation, do garbage be included in that rental?
Yes.
What about all of those that have a camp house here? You know, they don't pay a garbage bill. Their garbage goes somewhere. It don't go back
Exactly.
where they
You're
come
right.
from.
I totally agree with you, Mr. Mike. Do you have anything else for now?
The last thing on there was recycling, and I talked to you a little bit about recycling before. We're going to progress with what we're doing at 5 Points. We're not going to hit it hard because I don't have the manpower, but we're going to try to offer the opportunity for people to recycle. If it gets to be too big of a burden, if we don't have enough manpower, then I don't know, it'll slow other things down, I guess.
But Mr. Joe, if you don't have the manpower, that's pretty much, I'm looking inside the county, looking out, I'm looking at our maintenance department, looking at your department. That's our biggest problem right now is the manpower. Lord knows if we didn't have our inmates.
And they're talking about cutting more of those inmates from us, you know, some more work crews. I mean, that's coming, gentlemen. But Joe, what if maybe to help you out, I mean, you know, as you move along with this recycling, you know, if we could get a couple of inmates assigned to your
That would help
landfill out there.
One of my guys has already become certified.
Right, I mean, you know, maybe we could swing that. I think we could.
Let me close. How, a portion of it, going to recommend with the landfill we increase the tipping fee. Is that correct, up to $40?
Yes, sir.
For the budget committee. And on this, this morning I came down, and Commissioner Bryan is in your district, but don't take any offense to this. It's so close. When I come through White City, I can just flip right into the boat ramp there. Got out and made an inspection this morning at the two cans there at where you launch the boat, bait cans, soft drink, other cans. In other words, it was for fishermen to come in, and they had deposited their, you know, I'm glad they didn't throw it in the water. But they did, they deposited, and that's where it was supposed to have been. So I went on around to the back, back portion of it. There's two big cans there. Those are the ones that really where the household garbage was, and you can go look now. Hour and a half, 2 hours ago, they were emptied. Whoever cleaned the park, the two garbage bags, there's nothing in those cans, and I have seen a lot of. So I don't know, the word might have got out about people dumping household garbage, but the only thing there this morning was all legitimate. It's fishermen that pulled out, put their garbage over where they should, instead of it blowing out on the highway or throwing it into our water system.
You know, here in Gulf County, we run this feed. And if we put out that we finna start finding people for leaving trash, I got a feeling the lots of it, you're still gonna have those one or two that just don't really care. But
They're just humans.
Yeah, but a lot of people, I really feel like they'll catch a hope to it, and we all go to speaking up about it, or just like at our parks, I listening to them how they talk about a bunch of stuff is being vandalized in the parks. If the ones who's not vandalized it speak up about it and let those know that, you know, you're doing it, we're going to report you. We got a bad problem here in St. Joe because we know everybody, and we don't want to report somebody because we know them. But that person we know respect what we got because we got a beautiful area right here. You know, and it's hard work keeping it beautiful. These are just some of the issues that we got to face right now. But like I said, with that mandatory, I know Mr. Michael Moore don't care for it, but the way I feel about it, I think that's something we need to move forward on the recycling. I think that's something that we could really make. I think recycling, we can make it work if we push it. I listen to lots of people who recycle, but they don't have to follow EPA rules and everything. And as long as we got the EPA and rules we got to follow, that kind of put us a little bit lower than where they got to be at. So I really feel we can make some money with it, but we just got to give it a try.
Okay. All right.
That's how I feel about it. Anything else from the board? Do I have anything from the public?
Mr. Chairman, I'm taking what Joe was saying. He's not recommending the expansion to the board. He's not recommending you expand the landfill. And, which means 2018, if it, landfill lasted longer, we think it's going to last, 2018, we got to be set up and go on transfer. But can't vote on it today in the workshop, can't vote on it. But one comment, also I think Joe's recommending mandatory table garbage pickup. And just a point there, if everybody in this county paid for garbage pickup, odds are the waste management, waste pros of the world won't be hauling any additional tonnage out of the county. They're hauling it all out today already, but in not as many trash containers. The idea would be spread it out to everyone and everyone get a lower cost per month. There will be some savings, which in our past conversations was trying to pick up, if we get a lower number on the trash pickup, monthly trash pickup cost, table garbage pickup, we may be able to help or pay towards yard debris. We're talking about maybe 3 cubic yards a month that can be picked up out of the yard to keep Gulf County forces how to pick that up. So I'm looking at it, he's not recommending expansion to the landfill. He is recommending mandatory garbage pickup for your consideration at a regular board meeting. And Joe, is that where you are? But point on the mandatory garbage, we know we have looked at over the years, last many years, there are a lot of camps in the county. People come down around my neighborhood. There's been a few new RVs popped up from out of state, and they don't have garbage pickup. And today there is garbage on the side of the road for one of those. And on my way to work this morning, I saw it. So how do you get everyone to pay for their garbage? They expecting us to go by and pick it up, I assume. But if we had garbage, and there's all kind of soft and hard, mandatory, if you absolutely had to pay for your garbage to be picked up, there's really no reason to not throw it in your trash can. If you have an option to pay it, some are not going to pay it. And those that's not going to pay it, they still got to dispose of the garbage somewhere. So it's just some things we have thought about in our budget workshops and conversation over the years. It's not a simple thing, it's a complicated issue. Mandatory sounds like mandatory, but it's not really mandatory sometimes. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Well, as of the day, guys, we sat down and we looked at the landfill. And Mr. Joe Danforth don't let us know that if we can't make a decision on that landfill situation, that he will be the one making the decision. So I think we need to take strong consideration and look into that a little bit harder. We have looked at our mandatory garbage pickup, and that's something that I think we should consider, but that's the business of the board to make that decision. And we have looked into recycle. So, I mean, these is 3 hot topics that we're looking into, and I like to just let the board know that we got to come up with some answers, guys. And this is what we get voted in here for, to make a decision. I can tell you right now, no matter which decision you make, you're gonna get jumped on. It don't matter. So we got to make a decision. If we don't have nothing else from the public, do we have anything from our staff? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Got a motion by Mr. Michael Moore, second by Mr. Mike Dagan. I apologize to you guys for